Welcome to Assembly Bethesda. I'm your host, Hayne Fogarty, and it's always a pleasure to spend this time with you. Today, we're tackling a topic that's tough but incredibly important for our spiritual health: the corrupted monk, warnings against hypocrisy in Scripture. Now, before we even start, let's be clear. This isn't about us pointing fingers at anyone else. Instead, it's about Scripture's profound and direct call for each of us to examine our own hearts and strive to live with real, uncompromised integrity. So let's jump in. The Bible, you'll notice, never sugarcoats reality, especially when it comes to hypocrisy. It consistently portrays it as one of the biggest threats to genuine faith. Think for a moment about the Pharisees during Jesus' time. They were the religious experts, the teachers, always in the right attire, saying the right prayers. They looked the part. But Jesus, with his penetrating gaze, saw straight through their outward show. In Matthew 23, he delivers some of his strongest warnings in all the Gospels. He tells the crowds and his disciples, "Listen to what these scribes and Pharisees teach from the law, for they occupy Moses' seat. But," and this is crucial, "don't copy their actions." Why? Because they preach, but they don't practice. That's the absolute core of hypocrisy, isn't it? Saying one thing and living another. It's a profound disconnect.
Jesus, my friends, doesn't just offer a gentle critique. He unleashes a series of powerful condemnations known as the 7 woes against these hypocrites. These are not minor rebukes. They are clear warnings about the destructive nature of spiritual pretense. The first woe hits us directly. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Think about that. These were the spiritual leaders who should have been guiding people towards God. Instead, they were actively blocking the way with their rigid rules and self-righteous attitudes, making faith seem difficult and exclusive rather than the open invitation it's meant to be. It's a profound warning about spiritual gatekeeping, making us consider how we might inadvertently do the same. But Jesus continues, exposing how they devour widows' houses while making long prayers for show. Can you grasp the deception there? They were exploiting the most vulnerable among them, using their positions for financial gain, all while maintaining an outward appearance of deep piety with elaborate public prayers. It's a chilling example of spiritual abuse, isn't it? This highlights the danger of using faith as a mask for personal gain.
Jesus, with unwavering intensity, continues to peel back the layers of hypocrisy. He reveals a truly devastating scenario. They travel land and sea to win one convert, but when you have succeeded, you make that person twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. Their influence, far from bringing true spiritual life, was actually corrupting people, drawing them further from God. It's a sobering thought about our own spiritual impact. Next, Jesus critiques their misplaced priorities. They focus on minor rules, like tithing tiny garden spices, but completely neglect the truly weighty matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. He vividly says they strain out a gnat but swallow a camel, majoring on the minors while ignoring what truly matters. This calls us to examine our priorities. Are we focusing on externals while missing the heart? Then he reveals another inconsistency. You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. They were blind guides, fixing what everyone could see, but ignoring the corruption festering in their hearts. This leads to the strongest image of all. In verse 27, Jesus declares, "You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean." This, my friends, is the ultimate picture of the corrupted monk, a polished exterior hiding death and decay within. A truly stark warning.
This isn't an isolated message. Jesus returns to this theme repeatedly. In Luke 12:1, he warns his disciples, "Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy." What an evocative analogy. Yeast spreads quietly, unseen, affecting the entire dough. Hypocrisy works the same way. It starts small, but steadily corrupts character and influence over time. It's a subtle infection we must guard against. Then consider the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6. Here, Jesus explicitly teaches against practicing righteousness merely to be seen by others. When you give, pray, or fast, he says, don't do it for public praise. Hypocrites, he points out, already receive their full reward from people. But true reward comes from God alone, who sees in secret. This teaching truly challenges our motives, doesn't it? It pushes us to ask, who is my audience? And then, famously, in Matthew 7, Jesus warns against judging others while ignoring your own faults. You hypocrite, he says, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. It's so easy to spot tiny flaws in others, isn't it? But we often remain blind to the enormous faults in ourselves. A crucial reminder for honest self-reflection.
Beyond the Gospels, warnings against hypocrisy resonate throughout the New Testament letters, reinforcing its gravity. James 1:26, for example, says, "If anyone considers themselves religious but doesn't keep a tight rein on their tongue, they deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless." This reveals a disconnect between outward religiosity and inward self-control. True faith demands consistency. Then there's 1 John 4:20. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. Wow, that's powerful, isn't it? It strips away pretense when our actions betray a lack of love. You can't claim spiritual superiority while harboring bitterness. These passages show hypocrisy is far from minor. It fundamentally misrepresents God, harms people, and leads away from true salvation. The corrupted monk pretends devotion, puts on a show, but whose true allegiance is to self, praise, or power. These warnings are profoundly relevant, calling us to examine the very foundations of our faith today.
So, if Scripture so vehemently warns against hypocrisy, what does it call us to embrace instead? The answer, my friends, is clear: authenticity, humility, and heart-level obedience. Jesus himself modeled this perfectly, didn't he? He served others without seeking glory, spoke truth in love, and lived a life of complete congruence between his inner being and outward actions. He invites us to follow that same challenging, but ultimately fulfilling way. Hypocrisy, at its root, thrives in pride and a deep-seated fear of exposure. We worry about what others will think, so we put on a show. But the antidote to this spiritual poison is honest self-examination, heartfelt confession, and complete reliance on God's amazing grace. When we are willing to admit our failures and genuinely seek change, God truly transforms us from the inside out. He doesn't just whitewash the exterior, he renovates the entire dwelling. Friends, let's take these warnings to heart. Let's not settle for a mere polished exterior, like those whitewashed tombs or the corrupted monk. Instead, let's pursue a genuine faith that seamlessly matches our words with our actions, our inner convictions with our outward conduct. That is what truly honors God and blesses others. Thank you for joining me today. As always, it is a pleasure to spend this time with you. God bless, and until next time.